It's always a feeling that you don't fit in.
It may contain the virus.
NASCAR peeled it off my car.
Welcome to Your World by Bloomberg QuickTake. I'm Jennifer in Los Angeles.
And I'm Kurumi in Tokyo.
The coronavirus pandemic has a habit of inverting things all over the world.
Like here in Japan, where roller coaster riders have been asked to remain silent at all times. COVID-19, Fuji-Q is asking visitors not to scream on rides. Wait, do you hear that? Probably not easy. So when visitors said it'd be impossible not to scream on rides, two company execs took on the park's top attraction to set an example. They rode the Fujiyama roller coaster in total silence. Their message? Please scream from inside your heart. I'm taking on the no scream challenge. Temperature check, mask on, socially distant ticket booths and lines, then sanitize hands. It's happening. Fuji-Q Highlands reopened on June 19th with new safety measures along with other theme parks in Japan. Here we go.
When I hear about these COVID parties, it just, makes my head spin. You're not in a vacuum. You are part of the propagation of the outbreak.
We must be extremely careful when we get home. If you are exposed, and you may not even know that you're exposed, when you're coming home, your family is in danger.
After facing pressure from scientists led by Lidia Morawska, the World Health Organization said it would no longer rule out the possibility of COVID-19's airborne transmission. For this week's health segment, we spoke to Professor Morawska. She's the director of the International Laboratory for Air Quality and Health at Queensland University of Technology.
We are not talking small or big. It has nothing to do with size. Dependently through which part of the respiratory tract air passes and where the virus is and what we do, whether we breathe, we speak, or we sing, there are different size of aerosols generated, different concentrations of them. And then if they pass through the area of the respiratory tract where there's virus, they also pick up virus on the way. So this cloud which stays around in the air, it may contain the virus. And if that's the case, they stay suspended in the air, and they can stay suspended in the air for quite a long time, until they are somehow removed from the air. And in places where ventilation is insufficient, they can stay for a very long time. They can easily stay in the air for a few hours. This depends on the condition of the environment. Viruses of this type like cool air and dryish conditions. So if these are the conditions, like in many office buildings, for example, this could be good conditions. If, on the other hand, we go outside where there is hot And in addition, UV radiation, well, within a very short period of time, they will be deactivated. Well, very much so, but this is not the only aspect. Since UV radiation, it is the very fast dilution. Outdoors, which is a large reservoir, dilution is very fast. So therefore, the airborne transmission outdoors has very little chances to occur. Of course, there is still that contact. If you are standing next to somebody for a long time and this person sneezes at you or something like this, that's the close contact. But otherwise, in airborne transmission, it's much less likely to occur outdoors.
Is ongoing. It doesn't stop, and we don't know when it's going to stop at this point. Admitting multiple patients a day. We got a first wave. Some people would say we're still in the first wave, but we've been in it long enough now where we're trying to switch gears and say we're in it for the long haul.
Black students in the small German town of Passau say that for years now, they haven't had a voice. Next up, we're taking you to the University of Passau campus where the Black Lives Matter movement gave many of them the confidence to speak up.
So what is it like to live as a person of color in Germany? I would say it's always a struggle, it's always difficult because it's always a feeling that you don't fit in and people always tell you you are different. Our problem in Germany with racism is the same as in the USA. People here don't have guns, so that's why people aren't likely to be killed in Germany, but I think the problem is the same, so I think there are many similarities.
Although I'm living here in Passau and police brutality isn't comparable to the police brutality in the USA, I kind of felt like this could also happen to me.
Minorities United was founded in October 2019, and we're a group of people of color at the University of Passau. We are aiming to provide a safe space for people of color at the university, and we also want to do some empowerment for people of color at the university.
There was a need for a group, for a safe space where POCs can meet up and can share their knowledge and their experience and have people around you to empower each other.
On the first protest we did, we were really surprised about the turnout of people. About 450 people showed up, which were a lot considering that protests in Passau are happening, but they're usually a bit smaller. It's mostly students arriving, showing up at the protests, mostly because we are students organizing it and we're sharing it in our circles. But there are also non-students who come, who see the cause as important, who want to show their support, who want to do something, who want to send a message across.
Ich glaube, es ist so ein Widerspruch. Gleichzeitig fühlt man sich die ganze Zeit so, als ob man beobachtet werden wird, permanent, aber gleichzeitig auch, als ob man unsichtbar ist. Also auf der einen Seite habe ich das Gefühl, als würde ich als einziges Individuum die komplette Black Community repräsentieren, vor allem dann immer in den negativen Aspekten, damit Rassisten die Chance dann haben zu sagen, ja klar, ist ja typisch, immer die Ausländer und so, oder die Schwarzen. Auf der anderen Seite unsichtbar, weil meine Bedürfnisse, vor allem jetzt als Black Man, also als schwarzer Mann, nicht so wirklich dann wahrgenommen wird im Sinne von mentale Gesundheit. Also durch Traumata, die man halt eben durch rassistische Erfahrungen erfährt. Ich habe das Gefühl, als sei ich immer die ganze Zeit unter Druck. Also ich müsste halt immer überperformen, weil ja auch ziemlich oft es so gesagt wird oder weil ich auch oft das Gefühl habe, als ob meine Arbeit nur so halb so wert ist wie die einer weißen Person.
As I went to school, there was like a game. When a white person sees a person of color, you need to say meiner, like this one is mine, and it's like this is my slave kind of thing. And that was very hurtful and played many times on me like I'm their slave now.
So I would say a lot of things start with microaggressions. A lot of things start with asking the question, where you're really from. As a person of color, if you ask me personally, I'm kind of white passing, so my experience is really different than from other people of color. But I would say that racism is definitely happening, and a lot of the things that happen are often tied to the notion of what it means to be German. So if you don't really look white, if you don't look a certain part of how Germans are supposed to look, you're already supposed to be assumed you're not German.
Dagegen muss massenhaft der Widerstand organisiert werden.
I personally hope that these protests will achieve that people finally wake up, that people see racism is and has always been happening in Germany, that BIPOC people are marginalized in Germany from the greater society.
In March, the U.S. government approved a $2 trillion stimulus plan that provided jobless benefits and direct payments to taxpayers. But we're hearing from residents in Cleveland, Ohio's predominantly Black neighborhoods who say they've found themselves locked out of the federal rescue plan.
When you add the pandemic of racism, the pandemic of COVID-19, and all of that has converged in an area that has already been dealing with high rates of poverty, it's like watching a perfect storm.
I applied for unemployment, and every claim I filed was denied. Every appeal I filed was denied.
I have a person in my congregation that was turned down about 6 times for unemployment. She has not had any money since March, and they finally gave it to her last week, and they did not even retro it all the way back. As a pastor, I get phone calls for sickness, food. We have given out probably triple the amount that we normally would give out. Funerals, unemployment. Now we have people afraid of losing their housing. So it has affected this part, which is already a very disenfranchised part of Cleveland.
Congress has fallen short in helping minority-owned businesses and helping small businesses generally. The pandemic has been the great revealer. It revealed all the racial disparities in our country in healthcare and housing and jobs and the economy overall and education.
Often in an area like this, where many of the people are frontline workers and have an AMI below the average here in the city of Cleveland, then I can tell you they're just using that stimulus money just to catch up. CARES package, in my opinion, has not been very friendly to any urban core that I know of in the United States, and it definitely hasn't been here in Cleveland.
It doesn't trickle down this far. We're in an area that's called the Forgotten Triangle, and we have been forgotten about again with this relief fund. It has not reached us. I don't take a salary, and I'm being penalized for being a working pastor and not having people on payroll.
Just like any other sickness, you have to identify the problem before you can put a remedy in place in order to deal with the problem. Racism exists in all of our systems, everything from criminal justice to housing to infrastructure to income inequality, as well as health disparities.
It's going to be a long, hard road.
My goal for the rest of my life is to continue to do what I can to bring about and to create a world community at peace with itself. My big idea is to leave this world, to leave this little piece of real estate, to leave this little planet a little greener, a little cleaner, and a little more peaceful for generation yet unborn. That is my big idea.
We received a ton of comments from those of you who watched our interview with Bubba Wallace. This week, we're bringing you another NASCAR driver's take on the Confederate flag. Meet Tommy Joe Martins.
I feel like to be die-hard about the flag now, you almost have to be sticking your head in the sand to the people that it's really affecting. I'm Tommy Joe Martins, driver in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and I'm from Como, Mississippi. When I first started racing, I noticed Dale Jr. had a flag of North Carolina on his car. I thought that would be really cool. Something unique about myself would be able to represent Mississippi on my car in probably about 2017, 2018. NASCAR peeled it off my car, and when I confronted them about it, it was like, well, why'd you do that? They said, well, you know, that's the Confederate flag on your car. Yeah, was I a little caught off guard by it? Yes, because that's obviously not what I was trying to do. I was trying to put my state flag on a car. But NASCAR has made these statements against the flag and against racism for the last several years. Still wanted to be proud of where I was from. I still wanted to represent that on my car. That was something really passionate for me. And I found out about the Stennis flag. To me, it was just the first thing that I saw as an alternative. I feel like I'm maybe weirdly positioned to kind of bridge the gap between some of the people that feel so passionate about the Confederate flag, and maybe they're so blinded by that they're not seeing just the overwhelming response to what it actually means. It's taken something like the death of George Floyd for the entire state of Mississippi and maybe the country to go, man, what are we doing with a lot of this stuff? And you know, obviously I can relate to that because I had my own moment with it. You know, my moment was obviously a lot smaller and it came a few years ago, but it probably should have come a lot earlier than that. What we're witnessing now in America, it's not just in Mississippi, it's everywhere. And there is growing pressure on both sides of the aisle to do what is overwhelmingly the right thing to do here.
Thanks so much for watching. Remember, if you missed any of our previous episodes, you can find them all by visiting Bloomberg QuickTake on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
And for a daily recap of the day's top stories, visit www.quicktake.video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.